Минобороны России продолжает работу по анализу переданных сотрудниками украинских биолабораторий документов о секретной военно-биологической деятельности США на территории Украины. Российскими специалистами войск радиационной, химической и биологической защиты изучены документы о передаче по указанию представителей США, взятых на Украине человеческих биоматериалов, в иностранные государства. Кроме того, особый интерес вызвала детальная информация о реализации США на территории Украины проекта по изучению переноса патогенов, мигрирующими между Украиной и Россией, другими соседними странами, дикими птицами. Согласно документам, американская сторона планировала вести на Украине в 2022 году работы по патогенам птиц, летучих мышей и рептилий с дальнейшим переходом к изучению возможности переноса ими африканской чумы свиней и сибирской язвы. В созданных и финансируемых на Украине биолабораториях, как показывают документы, проводились эксперименты с образцами коронавируса летучих мышей. Целью этих и других финансируемых Пентагоном биологических исследований на Украине являлось создание механизма скрытого распространения смертоносных патогенов. В ближайшее время мы опубликуем очередной пакет полученных от украинских сотрудников биолабораторий документов и представим результаты их экспертизы.
Mes frères combattants russes, nous sommes au courant de ce qui se passe en Ukraine. Les soldats russes mènent des opérations militaires pour amener la paix et l'ordre face au nationalisme ukrainien. Nous, soldats africains, nous sommes prêts à aller auprès de nos frères russes pour aller les soutenir. Mes frères russes, tenez bon, nous, Africains, nous arrivons bientôt. Courage, courage!
So one of my subscribers said the last video I did, he couldn't hear the volume, so I'm gonna just do it again. But what needs to be said about this whole Ukraine-Russian situation is that we can't fall into the trap believing that the United States is some it's like morally superior to other places, when in fact it has a lot of diabolical plans, unfortunately, as you see from those labs. And this wouldn't be the first time too. I mean, you look at I want to say Puerto Rico even. You know, in Puerto Rico, I didn't know this was happening, but until I read a book about it. But the medicine that they were giving the Puerto Rican people at the time, it was used to sterilize the women. You know, so women didn't even realize they were getting sterilized, but were, you know, still taking these medicines. There's places in Puerto Rico right now where, you know, you can get sick from radiation because the United States tested so many weapons there. You know what I mean? We can look at the Tuskegee experiment, right? I don't know the full details on the Tuskegee experiment. I don't know like all the details about it, but you know, you look at that situation and you see like what the United States is about. But my main concern is this, like, why aren't we hearing about this information? Why did I have to dig up to find this information? You know what I mean? I got this video from a friend on Facebook, you know, and he sent me this, and I was kind of just shocked to find out what they were up to. You know, so when it comes to the United States, it's sad to say it, but the United States will use any means to disrupt a place, even if it's like biological warfare. You know, it's sad that, you know, the United States tries to be this moral police when it's probably the biggest immoral police. Like, you look at the situation with like in Iraq, where it accused Saddam Hussein of having weapons of mass destruction. At one time, Libya did have weapons. Like, Libya did have chemical weapons. And Libya's mistake, though, was disarming those chemical weapons. That was its biggest mistake, because when it did that, it left itself very vulnerable. And we saw the result of that happening. This is just a hypothesis about this whole situation going down. But number one, the United States is very much, or Ukraine is very much a United States Eastern European colony. It will do its beck and call, and the fact that it's trying to get to NATO shows what kind of stance it has. You know what I mean? It's not showing that it wants to just be like mutual or be in good graces with its neighbors around it. It's showing that basically it wants to be an enclave of quote unquote American democracy, which we already know is a crock of crap anyway. But anyhow, what I want to say too is that like, in terms of the African mercenaries, if you don't understand French, basically what the mercenaries said was that, they are African soldiers, they are combating Ukraine, and they are coming to the assistance of their ally and brother Russia and Vladimir Putin. You know what I mean? But here's how I feel about this. Here's the pros and cons of them being sent over there. The pros is that they get to take out some neo-Nazis that Fox 11 News, BBC, NBC say don't exist, which we know they're the masters of misinformation. What usually when they say something doesn't exist, it does exist usually. But anyhow, those African mercenaries get to take out, these elements, these Nazi elements, and hopefully as a good gesture to them being sent over there, Russia could provide like different types of bilateral things we need, like weapons, technology, things like that, that will help with our infrastructure. Now, historically speaking, Russia and Africa, like Russia has never really been like a colonial power in Africa. It never had that history. During the Cold War, it assisted us more than any other country, to be honest with you. The only countries that were assisted by the United States were those pro-Western countries where they weren't really fighting for self-determination or really fighting for a better life, versus my pop's struggle in Guinea-Bissau, Cabo Verde. That was for self-determination, that was for a better life. Therefore, United States, therefore Portugal, therefore France, they didn't support it. However, the Soviet Union supported it, China supported it, and also Cuba supported it as well. So, the thing is about Central African Republic troops going there, with Central African Republic, what happened was that there was a conflict orchestrated by the French, and that conflict really kind of just like stirred the whole pot and made things like kind of like a brutal civil war. Many people were killed in that war, and the French troops that went there did not help at all. So what happened is the Russians came in, and the Russians did what they could. However, the Russians also decided to train African troops. Those African troops spoke in Russian. They learned Russian language as well. Now, the downside to this, though, however, is that the one downside to this whole situation, however, though, is the fact that the Africans are already going through it enough in I want to say in Ukraine. This may orchestrate and trigger even bigger problems, because now, you know, this, since the Ukrainians are already racist as it is, you know, you're adding fuel to the fire by you know, having these African mercenaries over there. So what are the people going to do? The people are going to take their anger out on the Africans who are just there to study. And, you know, God forbid that they start doing violent actions, which will not be covered by the Western media, and the Ukrainian government won't do crap about, you know? So I'm going to end this video pretty short. What I think the big issue is at hand, and I hate to say this, but I think that since Russia and the Soviet Union can live without Africa and have shown that they can live without Africa, the United States and Western Europe do not want this relationship with Russia and Africa to grow even more. So this is kind of one of the reasons for the war, because they know, like, for example, you know, France and other places in Europe would be third world countries if it wasn't for Africa, versus Russia that can be, hey, it doesn't necessarily need Africa, you know, it doesn't need another country, you know what I mean? So I think that is kind of like an underlying factor in what we see happening right now. You know, I don't know for sure. This is just an educated guess, but this is something that I just feel deep inside. But anyhow, man, I'm off until the next one. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Free to signing out. Njadama.